bull that was defaced by State Street's statue of the Fearless Girl because the artist got into a battle. You know, you changed my artwork. The bull is supposed to be on its own and signify, you know, whatever he
whatever he wanted.
We look at it in many different ways, but when they put the girl in front, they so the exchange said, you know what, we would welcome him here any day, and
why not?
Coincided with Stacey Cunningham, first female president of the New York Stock Exchange. Now it's Lynn Martin, our second. But let's go in. Let's go in through security. Check you guys in. So welcome to a place I've been for 30 years. 30 years.
Wow.
It's changed. I'm going to give you the whole tour now. It's changed dramatically since I started in 1992. This was a vibrant, very testosterone-filled floor. Over 5,000 people in 5 different rooms. You're standing in the main room. It's the main room because it was the main room of the 5. You're sitting right in the center of it where the stocks trade. You have trading posts, then you have trading booths. The posts are where the market makers trade, where the individual stocks trade. So if you want to buy, you know, ICE, you would go right here, the parent of the New York Stock Exchange. It's market maker for a decade. I love that stock, know it well. Or if you wanted to buy something like DuPont, you come to my right. Every stock has its own location and its own individual market maker. That's what makes this place unique. One of many reasons. I mean, we'll get into those, but each stock has its own human at the controls. And each broker, the 4 brokers around the perimeter of this room, they have an interest in that stock, especially the open and the close, which are still auction markets. They will come in and they'll get that morning look. They'll get that look, how's it looking on the bell? And, you know, the market maker's job is to provide that information. When I started years ago, we'd have crowds. And IBM, another stock that was market maker, would have a crowd of 10 people, 10 different firms, Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, Payne Weber, which later became UBS, Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns. And they would be there to negotiate the best price for their customer in that stock. So if you're a buyer, you want to get it cheap, your seller, you want to get it, you know, at a higher price. My job as market maker, known as specialist, would be to let you guys play in the sandbox and negotiate. Last sale is 130. I'll pay 129.75. I'll offer it to you at 130.25. There's my market. Now I would try to get you guys to say, hey, can you agree at 130 last sale? No. Then we would wait, and then maybe a third person comes in. They're going to break the tie. You have buyers or sellers. It doesn't matter. That's it. If there's another buyer, you change the dynamic. All right. Now it looks like it's going to go up. The seller's happy. The buyer's now got a decision to make. I have competition, and human behavior was very important then, and the way you dealt with the people. Now we study price patterns, but those price patterns are human behavior in price form. We saw it live and in person on every single trade, and there's nothing better. Did it go smoothly all the time? No. Were there fights and arguments? Of course, because you know you have to get on the phone and say, I sold them at 129.75. Well, last was 130, and explain why I sold them. Humans were held accountable. They made decisions all day. If you bought stock on the opening, say you had 20,000 shares of IBM to buy, you bought the opening because you know the tech sector, you know the stock, you saw the crowd, and you had a feeling the market was going to rally. You used your instinct, your behavior, your knowledge of the stock to make a decision, and stock went up. You're a genius. This guy's getting more order flow.
Intuition.
All right? But if it went down, second guessed. What are you doing? Now, the way things have changed, and this is the biggest change in the way stocks trade, in the way people trade stocks, is they just want the average price. Now, when we went to school, if we got average grades, we'd be in trouble. But in Wall Street, your job on an execution, you have 20,000 shares to buy or to sell. All right, go buy 10% of the opening. All right, so you're there for the biggest trade of the day outside of the close. And now let the algorithm buy stock over time and get the average price of the day. And if you beat it by a penny, whoa, you're a genius. Instead of beating it by $2 because you bought the opening, you were right, it rallied. So that's what's changed the most. So that's what happens in the center of this room. We also have lots of media here. You guys now, welcome aboard. But CNBC, obviously, you see these guys where if they were live, we'd be in the background of their shot. New York Stock Exchange has its own media team. Our friend Judy Shaw is down here preparing to do another floor talk. We'll say hi to her in a little bit. Then we have some new media that just joined us. FinTech TV. We have TheStreet.com. They've been around for a while, but they just got their new media platform. So there are cameras here. If you wanted to come and report live from the floor and you didn't have this great crew here, you could stand and talk to the NYSE people and say, hey, I want to be on camera 9 as the Fed announcement comes out, and I want to talk live from the floor, and they can arrange something like that with you. So the media relationship, it's very important because, you know, in my biased opinion, this building is the Yankee Stadium of Finance. And apologies if you're from Boston, it's still the Yankee Stadium of Finance.
Michigan Tigers fan here.
Yeah, old Tiger Stadium was really nice. So I'll give you that. This is a very special place, very special building, iconic. It's here since 1903. And you know, for us to allow the world to see what goes on here, while we don't get the yelling and screaming like we do, you can still feel the pulse and the heartbeat of capitalism and when things are going well. And you're here so far on an up day, so you're allowed to stay. If things turn, I'm kicking you right out of here. But so that's the market maker. Let's walk around the floor a little bit. I want to show you the bell. I want to introduce you to a few people. What are these new toys you have here? These are...
You got some sup ducks, or what are we building on?
What's a sup duck?
Ah, you see, you'll learn about that.
Is that a Funko toy?
I love it.
Fantastic.
These at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
On October 6th, we're launching.
My kids would love those.
This is the Einstein trading doll.
Oh, I love it.
Thanks so much for having us.
Hi everyone.
Hi, how we doing? I'm Mitch. Nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet
Chris.
you. Nice to meet you, Chris.
But yeah, Judy's been really busy. I know she wanted to say hi.
Yes, I wanted to
Yeah, we
say
appreciate
hello.
it.
Yeah.
They added lights above, lights on this post, and that TV will flip over. During the day, it's a set of NYSE Floor Talk. I've yet to be a guest on the new Floor Talk set, so this is interesting. So the bell podium. You know, everyone has their signature thing. At the NYSE, we have our pillars, but we also have our bell. And every morning at 9:30, before that bell rings, the executive team or the celebrity guest, if we have a celebrity guest, we sometimes have them. Serena Williams just rang the bell a couple weeks ago to commemorate her last run in the U.S. Open. They'll congregate here under the bell. It's a nice photo op, but they'll learn that when they ring this bell, it opens markets worldwide. Even though we do trade pre-market, I know you probably trade pre-market too. The real quotes, the real depth markets are starting at 9:30. And here's a stat that most people don't know, and it sounds silly when I say it, but this is the most watched event on a daily basis throughout the world. And on Wall Street today, ding, 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 and you see the people clap and hear what's going on. Then they show, you know, on all the news networks, give the one person, not the team, but the one person that rings the bell gets to sign that book.
Yeah.
They will walk them around up the stairwell. I will walk you up that stairwell. The rest of the team gets to sign the wall. So this is something that the exchange came up with in 2017. Not everyone gets to sign the book of distinguished guest, but anyone that gets to be on that podium with the distinguished guest and their company or their charity gets to sign this wall. And the wall has changed and evolved, and a lot has been put into storage, including Kobe Bryant's autograph, which I wish they kept out here. What you'll see are people who've been with the most recent bells here, and then some of the older bells as we walk our way up. In that room was the largest cafeteria. It was basically the boardroom, or the exchange luncheon club is what we called it, and there would be tables of 10. And there were probably 100 tables of 10, and they were for the different firms. And you would go there, and you would walk in, and you would have your Wall Street Journal, and you would talk about your day. Mostly, you get a feel for what's going on. What stocks are we watching? What are we looking at? You'd also get lung cancer walking into that room because everyone smoked. It was a different time. And then after breakfast, you know, they'd clear out the tables, and it was a big bar. And, you know, back in the Mad Men days, I'm told, they would enjoy their lunch with a cocktail or 5. This is our executive ramp. It takes us into the second largest room here at the exchange, and the only other trading venue is the garage. The garage was formed in the 1920s when expanding trading happened, the Roaring 20s. They needed more room to trade equities as more stocks were coming to the public. and they said, hey, let's clean out the garage. So this was literally the garage of this building, and they added 4 trading posts. I spent 10 years in that room, as a matter of fact. We now are back in one cozy room here at the main room, but the garage opened in the 20s. We expanded in the 60s, the 70s, to 2 rooms adjacent to this building that we no longer own. We had this 1 room, 3 trading posts with these high blue walls, and they called this room the Blue Room because they weren't very clever with their names. And then 5 years later, they extended off of the Blue Room, and they called that room the EBR, which stood for Extended Blue Room. All right, yeah, no, it gets better, it gets better. And then in the 90s, during the dot-com era, when everything was coming to market and our standards were a little less stringent and we could bring smaller companies public, they opened this new elaborate room across Exchange Place. They had a ramp that went from the Blue Room to this nice new room with all this new technology and 2 trading posts, and they called this new room the New Room. The New Room. Thank you very much for playing along. So yes, the New Room opened. Unfortunately, that, like the dot-com era, was the top for a little while, and that was new because of the technology. Well, the technology ramped up across all platforms, and people didn't have to have paper. We went from 8s to 16s to decimals. So we couldn't announce every trade in every penny increment. It was getting too taxing on our own system to write down all the pennies that we executed stocks. So the technology ramped up, and we didn't have runners. We didn't need someone to run tickets because there were no more tickets. We lost the clerical staff because we didn't need the clerks to write those tickets. And then we had the ability to trade more than 5, 10 stocks by one person because the technology was naturally pairing off buyers and sellers if they matched instead of coming into my crowd and negotiating. You can pick out your phone and trade stock and get executions within seconds instead of calling a broker, paying a ridiculous commission to have that broker run into point of sale, negotiate that trade, get it back. So all of these changes have been for the better, but as someone that's been in this arena for 30 years, you do miss the way it was, but you're always looking forward to what that next thing is. The brokers right now are running around from spot to spot to spot, like Peter Tuck with, like Jim over there. They're getting all their marking on close orders. They have to make sure they're always volume weighted average price related. Oh, we're behind the VWAP, we're ahead of the VWAP, this is great. Brian Shannon, if there was one indicator, I should have given Brian Shannon a shout out. It's volume weighted average price. That's what they're doing right now. At the end of the day, they try to trend right to it to nail it. I don't know if you saw, above these pillars is a big statue, and it's like this Greek statue that you see, like, of Apollo, but it's actually called integrity, and it's something that we don't take for granted when we walk through these pillars every day. We have an old saying, your word is your bond, and that's how every handshake deal was done. And if you broke that word, guess what? You weren't going to be here very long. You could not go back on your word, and so the fact that integrity is over these pillars is very important to me and the people that work here as well. Being able to be part of the history of this building and some of the people that got to wear a badge, wear a smock, work here, there's nothing more special than that. I'm glad I get to show your viewers a peek behind that curtain. And I do want to show you one more thing, our actual Buttonwood agreement, the agreement that started it all. For those that like history, it's something that we have to see. So why don't we go up there? Here you have what's probably the most important document here in the entire building. This is our Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, if you will. It's behind bulletproof glass. Prove me wrong. It's a little joke. You're supposed to laugh. But no, this is basically was the document signed in 1792, May 17, 1792, by 24 gentlemen who used to trade out on Wall Street, outside under what was called a buttonwood tree. A buttonwood tree, for you arborists, is actually a sycamore. The buttonwood got its name because it was the wood of the buttons that were used, the wood of the tree to make buttons. So these 24 gentlemen would trade under this tree on behalf of their customers. And what would they trade? They didn't trade stocks. There weren't stocks in 1792. They traded commodities, cotton, sugar, tobacco, and they would fluctuate in prices, and they would make those markets, and they would charge a commission to the people that would come and say, I want to buy sugar, I want to buy cotton. And they said, you know what? This group in Philadelphia, you know, always props to my hometown, Philadelphia. They have their own little exchange. It wasn't called a stock exchange because there were no stocks, but history will show that it was the Philadelphia Stock Exchange. They had their own agreement to trade as a unit and set a flat commission. Anyone who wanted to buy or sell those commodities had to pay those brokers to represent them for that commission. And the first stock was 1801, Bank of New York, helped by Alexander Hamilton to go public. It still trades here at the New York Stock Exchange. And this is the document that we just wouldn't be in existence without, so we like to highlight it here. And this is a fun fact. I always give this tour from the front. If you go to the back, there are signatures on the back. I just learned this 2 weeks ago. I've been in this building for 30 years. I never knew there were signatures on the back.
You didn't count the signatures.
No. Did you know there were signatures on the back of this? What? I learned this a couple weeks ago. It's crazy.